Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on in Sweden, and they are moving towards that communistic, cashless society. So John, can you go into this?
Well, what's going on in Sweden right now, of course, they're working really hard to create a cashless society, and I looked at a chart, and you got to see this chart. This is an unbelievable chart that is telling us that we're getting close to the end in Sweden when it comes to a cashless society. They're really pushing it very hard. What has happened is they've gone down from about 100 billion Swedish Kroner down to 60 billion Swedish Krona in circulation in paper and coin. So that means that they almost have halved over the last only over the last 3 years.
Wow.
They've halved the actual circulation of coin and paper notes.
So we've seen this initiative pushed by central bankers and governments of the like for quite a long time now, this push towards this cashless society where basically they can just enslave everyone in debt, and of course they thrive off of it, and they are going to make their move very soon at a global scale. It seems like they already are. So what does this mean for Sweden?
Well, what Sweden seems to be doing lately, and I like to make fun of my Swedish neighbors, unfortunately.
As a Norwegian.
I think they're actually, like, not to, we like to make fun and say that they're stupid sometimes, but they are really stupid, the ones that are governing the central banks.
The central planners and government.
It's sorry, I just can't get this. Like, why are you Swedes not looking to Norway? Norway's actually trying to push the same thing, but in Norway there's actually huge resistance against this. While in Sweden, people are asked on the street, are you for this? And I like the videos that I've seen is 90% of people is like, oh, it's great, I don't need to worry about it.
Well, they don't know anything about economics. I mean, that's the problem, because a vast populace, no matter where in the world you are, don't understand basic economics. They just hear free stuff, good stuff, prosperity, growth, and don't actually understand what that means and what it entails in the future down the road.
Well, what we're going to end up with, the M0 is not going to exist anymore. It's going to be completely gone. They're not going to even calculate it anymore because there's going to be only electronic digits. So what we're seeing is they want to create the framework for, a totalitarian kind of central controlled, maybe a blockchain system. I think that's where they want to push towards with their currencies. And they want to create that. And then, of course, they have ultimate control over every single transaction you do in your whole life.
Well, yeah, because it's centrally planned. So what would your advice be to Sweden? Because, of course, we talk all the time about physical value, insuring yourself with physical value like gold and silver, and being able to have that insurance for the future, not as an investment, but as simple insurance against the inevitable dollar crash.
Well, what it is now on top of everything, it's almost the insurance of privacy, gold and silver becomes, because now we can actually trade, even though, they ban you from using cash, well, you can still use your gold and silver. So, hey, we haven't even talked anything about that. That's actually a good point that I just made. Gold and silver is the new privacy against, these cashless societies that are trying to push. That's our only thing left is commodities and maybe bartering and all these other underlying economies that are really the core of the economy, but that they just want control over every single little aspect of and transaction in our economy, and they want to see what we're doing at every single time, so we're not opposing or doing anything that the government doesn't want us to do.
Yeah, well, basically, just don't fall into the trap of the globalists and central bankers and central planners and the governments that are pushing their market manipulation while the government allows these central bankers to print worthless currency. What do you got here, John?
Well, what I got here is a chart from Sweden, and it's in millions of euros in Swedish kroners. It's how much transactions have been made with cash or card. And actually, the Swedes, we were just talking recently, we had a video out that, they recently just in the world, cash and card transactions, electronic transactions intersected, and they're more now in electronics. Well, Sweden was way before anybody. They were almost around 2005 they did this. Wow. So they've been way ahead of the game. And of course, we've seen videos of Swedes injecting themselves with RFID chips to get access to their houses. So
talk about enslavement.
Yeah, it's the ultimate enslavement, and this is very scary. Like, why are you guys doing this over in Sweden? Especially the people in the bigger cities, of course. That's where they really push this agenda with the Agenda 2030 and other UN initiatives.
Absolutely. Well, let's face it. I mean, the globalists are, I guess, using the Swedes as a guinea pig for their global experiment.
Well, there are socialist states, so they're the utopia that they're talking about.
So they give in easily.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very easy to put forward these policies because people mostly listen to government and they're more pro-government doing something about things.
Yeah. Well, I want to put this out there just for the Swedes that are watching that aren't part of this whole thing. I'm not insulting the Swedish people. I'm basically just saying that, look, you are being scammed. You're being pushed into a hole that you won't be able to climb out of. And you are being used. And I want you to be able to be rich. I want you to be able to be successful. I want you to be free individuals. And that's what frustrates me, is that this keeps happening to people, good-intentioned people, decent individuals who look at things not as individuals, but as a collective, the greater good of the greater number, as J. Edward Griffin puts it, and they get pushed into absolute enslavement, and their liberties and their freedoms are torn away with thunderous applause.
Well, that's the idea that we've seen in Sweden and Norway and Finland, all those socialist countries. I grew up in Norway, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And this is the end game of socialism, is the totalitarian state. Like, that's always the move. You know, it always moves from big gigantic government, socialist government, over to a totalitarian government, full control over everybody. And if you don't believe that, if you don't think that the state wouldn't do that, well, it's just a creation of the state. The state, once over time, it needs ultimate power because it only grows by getting more and more power. And they want to grow the state because then you get more, job security, more people working for the state. And when you have so many people working for the state, you're going to get an obedient population because they're dependent on getting this policy. But the problem is, when the state becomes so big, who's going to pay for that state?
Yeah, absolutely.
A constant Keynesian hyperinflation,
extortion. Absolutely. And the globalists are hungry. These central planners are hungry, and they feed off of your good intentions. They feed off of enslavement and debt.
I'm just going to do a funny statement. I'm going to go back. I did a presentation on the weekend about the monetary history, and I always like mocking my good friends in Sweden. So I think you guys should go back to your copper dollars, the 40-pound slabs of copper that you used as currency back in the day. Get back to it. Use commodities, guys. Get out of the Swedish Kroner. Just get out of it. Like, it's detrimental to you guys. While M0 is going down, M2 is just skyrocketing in Sweden, which is debt. So it's time for Swedes to understand that it's game over. Let's try to make the last push before you lose all your freedoms, to understand what gives you freedoms and move away from it. Start the alternative economy right now, right in Sweden.
Freedom is intrinsic within you. Government doesn't hand it to you. You are born with it. Only government tries to take it away, and you must stand up to that. So thanks, John, for going into this. This is very interesting, and we'll be back at you with much more. Check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated. And of course, check our Anarchapulco offer, which you will save 10% on your tickets to Anarchapulco in Mexico if you type in promo code WAM. That's WAM. So thanks, John. We'll be back at you with much more. This is Josh Sigurdson, John Sneisen, signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
Thank you.